his arm around her throat with the gun pointed at her head. And so I saw Jimmy, my partner, through the back door, and he's drawing down on the guy, and he says, "Drop the gun." And the guy wasn't dropped. I said, "Jimmy, get out of there." So Jimmy dove out the back door, and we surrounded the house. Eventually, this guy came out of the house with this woman, stark naked, with the gun to her head, and he walked her down the front steps where there were police all over the place. I used to think that I was a really good cop. People liked me. He said, but now they all hate me. They throw shit at me. He said, I had somebody throw a fire extinguisher at me the other day. He said, I had somebody come up, stick a squirt gun underneath my shield and squirt me, and it was full of piss. He said, I said, have you ever been suicidal?
Mike Brosnan, welcome to Old School Cops Podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, Lou. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Well, I really appreciate it. We're trying to get this thing going. How long were you on the police department, and what police department were you on?
Well, I started my police career in 1979 with the University of Chicago campus police, and I worked there for almost 3 years till 1981, and then I got hired by the Oak Park Police, and I was there for 24 years, so a total of 27 years in police work.
So I'm kind of interested in University of Chicago. When I was working special operations group back in the 70s, SOG South, we used to get missions in the University of Chicago area, Hyde Park. Pretty cool place, good restaurants.
It was it's a busy area, but back then they did not want the public to know that they had a police department. So the squad cars had the lights on the top, and all it said on the side was University of Chicago. There were no sirens, so you were encouraged not to turn the lights on when you were responding to a hot call. Like I said, they just didn't want people to think that they needed a police department. That changed after one of the guys got killed.
One of the cops. Wow. You know anything about that?
Yeah, Steve Mitchell. This is right after I left, and he responded to like a crazy guy in the street, and the guy stabbed him. He dropped, and I don't know if the guy took his gun or whatever. There was a Chicago lieutenant working part-time for the university. I forget the guy's name, but this guy started shooting at the lieutenant. He dropped to the ground and started shooting back at the bad guy. But after that, they changed their procedures. Now they have police on the side of the car and on the back of the car. It's not just a university symbol. I think they have sirens in the cars now, and they've changed the uniforms, and it looks more professional.
So I looked into this case, Officer Mitchell, and this is what I learned. On August 12, 1983, Officer Mitchell, a U.S. Army veteran, war veteran, and his partner, Richard Dwyer, responded to a suspicious man looking into windows on East 56th Street. Dwyer was a Chicago police officer at the time. He later got a promotion. I believe he was a commander. When Officer Mitchell approached the front door to speak with the man pulled a 14-inch knife from his waistband and attacked Mitchell from behind. The suspect managed to seize Mitchell's service revolver and shot Mitchell's partner, Richard Dwyer, in the abdomen. Mitchell continued his attempts to locate the suspect even after being wounded. He succumbed to his wounds. The following day, August 13th, his partner, Dwyer, survived the shooting. The man with the knife was also a Vietnam veteran who was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic and, according to the court records, thought the police officers were Viet Cong agents out to get him. He was found innocent by reasons of insanity. The University of Chicago created the Stephen Mitchell Award, which is an award they give every year to their police officers. And yes, the University of Chicago completely changed from what looked like security guards and some kind of an unmarked car to the real police. Do you keep in contact with anybody back there? That was a long time ago, though, wasn't it?
I do, but I don't. Like, I was at Police Week last year in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
and
really? Wow.
Yeah, and I was working the booth for COPLINE. We set up a booth, and in fact, we gave out, I think, 1,200 wallet cards last year. So anyway, I was talking to this guy, and he had a Chicago police. He was like a leather jacket, but he had a Chicago police badge on there. And so I said, "Oh, you're from Chicago? I live in Chicago." He said, "Yeah, oh, yeah." Where'd you work? I said, "I worked in Oak Park." He said, "Did you work there your whole career?" I said, "No, I worked at the University of Chicago for 3 years before that." He gave me a strange look. He said, "I worked at the University of Chicago." I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Joe Shine." Joe Shine. We used to hang out together, but it's been so long.
So
So
you guys probably went to the Woodlawn Tap once in a while, right?
no, we used to go drinking by the Museum of Science and Industry
Yeah.
after work.
Outdoors.
Yes, in the summertime.
Very good, very good. So the town that you were at is I said is it there's a rough part in town, isn't there? And there's a part that's kind of really upscale, and then there's a part that's a little rough.
Yeah, well, what I say is that the garages on the north end of Oak Park look like houses, and the houses on the south end of Oak Park look like garages. But
So you get
the east end of Oak Park is the rougher part of town.
both extremes, both extremes.
Yeah.
So you started as a patrolman, and you made some rank. How did that go?
Well, I worked the patrol, and then I was on a TAC unit for a while, and then I made sergeant, and I was a detective sergeant for a while, and then I was a TAC unit sergeant for a while, and then I made commander.
So that's like a shift commander. That's like a
Right.
watch commander.
There's 3 shifts, and each shift has a commander, and the detective bureau has a commander, and I think there's an administrative commander. So there's, I think, 4 or 5 commanders on the department.
Very cool. Very cool. So, ever any gunplay on the job? Anything serious like that? Or,
I never shot anybody, but I pulled out my gun numerous times. In
oh,
fact, I
yeah.
saw one of our guys get shot on a call. It was on Augusta, right off of Austin, and we had a call of a home invasion, and a man was calling from upstairs in his house, said that somebody had broke in, tied him up, and stabbed him. He was on the second floor, and he said his wife was in the basement, and this guy was sexually assaulting her. So I was working tech with my partner. We got there. My partner went in the front door. I went covered the back. There was all kinds of units showing up. And my partner says that, hold on, the guy's got he's coming up from the basement with this woman. He's got his arm around her throat with the gun pointed at her head. And so I saw Jimmy, my partner, through the back door, and he's drawing down on the guy, and he says, "Drop the gun." And the guy wasn't dropped. I said, "Jimmy, get out of there." So Jimmy dove out the back door, and we surrounded the house. Eventually, this guy came out of the house with this woman, stark naked, with the gun to her head, and he walked her down the front steps where there were police all over the place. Um, I'm trying to get, it's been a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
he was he was trying to get this one of the squad cars, but the guy drove off, whoever the cop was with the squad car.
The guy
So
was
this
holding this gal hostage, and he was going to take a squad car to escape in.
Right. So the whole time he walked away with her with the arm around her neck and the gun to her head, and he was going around the neighborhood. And one of the sergeants says, "Don't shoot, please don't shoot," to us, because he thought that we might hit the woman. We're a little smarter than that, but so eventually he disappeared with the woman. We didn't know where he went. Then we got another call from this couple. They had been upstairs in their house putting their kids to bed, and all of a sudden,
So this was at night.
yes. So all of a sudden, this guy
Was it
appears on.
dark, or was it kind of dusk or dark?
No, it was dark. I mean, it has street lights and everything. So this couple says they're putting their kids to bed. All of a sudden, in the hallway upstairs appears this guy with this woman, and he's got the gun to her head. And he says, "Give me the keys to your car." So they gave him the keys
Wow.
to their car, and we were all we didn't know where he went. But all of a sudden, we get a call from the guy, tells us what happened, that this guy had come into the house. They gave him the keys. I think we were on Augusta at the time, and this car came flying out of the alley and going westbound.
Before we go any further, this
Mhm.
is great. Was this the big house part of town or the small house part of town?
It was like the medium house part of town. It was right between the two the 2 areas.
Okay, okay, go on.
So this car came flying out of the alley going westbound on Augusta, and the guy that was next to me turns and fired 2 shots at the car. I said, "That's not the car." He was shooting at the wrong car. I guess these people in that car must have seen the guy with the gun and took off. So so anyway, the guy is, driving the car, and he's going down the alley, there were tons of cops all around, and I think there was a sergeant from Chicago. A lot of Chicago cops were on the scene because it was only 2 blocks from the city, and this sergeant from Chicago fired through the back window. It went through the front seat and hit the guy in the back.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
Was the car running or was the car
oh, yeah,
stopped at
he
the
was
moment?
driving the car.
This guy, he's got the woman in the car,
Yeah,
and the Chicago police sergeant shoots through the back window
right,
at the guy driving. I
right.
mean, he was shooting from his car?
No, he was standing there. We were all on foot trying to get this guy to stop. So the guy got hit,
Wow.
but he didn't drop. He's still driving the car. He came out onto, I think it was Division Street he finally ended up driving out onto, and he crashed the car into, like, the curb, the fire hydrant, and he starts to get out, and he's got the woman, and so he gets out, and he's got the woman, and
Oh, there's something else coming now.
a Chicago detective pulls up, and this guy points the gun in the passenger side window and says, "Get out of your car." So the detective slid out of the car. He leaned over the hood and fired a shot at this guy.
Well, he didn't know the detective was a detective.
Probably not. Maybe he did, but it was obviously an unmarked car.
Yeah.
So the detective fires a shot. Obviously, we're all on the street. He didn't pay attention to what was in the back, and he hit one of our guys in the stomach. So this guy Chuck got hit in the stomach, and somebody says, "You all right?" He goes, "No, I've been hit in the stomach with a bullet." At about the same time, my partner Jimmy grabs the woman and pulls her away, and we had one of our sergeants there with a rifle that shot the guy through the neck, and he dropped.
Wow. So did he die?
Oh, yeah, right there. Yeah, I watched
Well,
him
that
die.
was that saved a lot of money. I mean,
Sure did it.
and aggravation. So
Yep.
that poor woman, was this a younger woman, an older woman?
She was probably in her 30s, but as it turned
My
out,
God.
whoever company she worked for, the employees didn't like her. So they had this guy, they gave him her address, told him, "Go take care
No
of her."
shit.
So that's what happened. He
You're
showed up.
kidding me.
Yeah,
This guy was he was like an assassin by hire.
right. I don't know if he was there to assassinate her or just to, well, he did stab the guy, her boyfriend or her husband, but then he was
My
sexually assaulting
gosh.
her. So, yeah.
Wow. So do you know if they ever found out who these people were that so what do you remember what I'm sure this is a long time ago,
Mm.
but do you remember what kind of place she worked at?
No, I
We
don't.
don't
This was
mention a
back in,
name. We want,
no,
you
this was
know.
probably 1983, maybe 84. So it's a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I mean, we didn't pre-discuss this or anything. This just
No.
kind of came out of your head
Mhm.
just now. But that is an incredible story. So, did you hear any more about these people who allegedly hired this guy to do this? Or
No, I mean, I was just a regular patrol officer at the time, so I didn't get in on any of the gory details that the detectives never said.
my next obvious question, which, I don't know if we'll keep this in, but I mean, the offender was what race?
Black,
And the victims were what
white,
race?
white. They were
So
both
it's a
white.
black on white crime. Man, I would like to know more about that case. If you get a chance
Hmm.
after this, and yeah, let's get a chance. Text me that or email, and we'll go on. My wife is a wizard at it. We'll go on AI, and we'll find any news reports from that thing, and maybe
Okay.
we can learn more. Now, I might attach it to this.
Well, I can give you the address when when the time comes. I'll tell you
Yeah,
the
sure,
address.
sure. We can add that later. So we did some looking into this wild and woolly case that Mike described. November 1983, a recently released ex-convict with a lengthy criminal record invaded a home in Oak Park, Illinois. He stabbed the husband. The husband survived the attack long enough to alert the police. The intruder then took the wife hostage and fled while holding her at gunpoint. A police pursuit and hostage situation followed, lasting approximately 30 minutes. A defender moved through Oak Park. They went into Chicago. Chicago police got involved. Officer Charles Willett, an Oak Park police officer, suffered a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Willett was reportedly shot with friendly fire. Of course, nobody's taking credit for that, but it kind of looks that way. As far as the victim and her husband and the place where they worked, there's no information available. I can understand if the victim was a sexual assault victim, they wouldn't want to bring her name out, being dragged naked around Oak Park and into Chicago. This is not something she wants to relive. So that's an incredible story. And but you've had some other stories. But before we go into that, so you were a detective sergeant, a tactical sergeant?
No, well, yeah. Before that, I got promoted from patrol to the detective bureau, and then I got promoted to sergeant. Well, I'm getting older, and my memory's not what it used
You
to
and me
be.
both. You and me. But
Yeah.
I got a long time on you, so
Hey,
you
wait
can't
till you turn
complain.
40. You'll be just like me.
I wish I could turn 40. Go on.
Let's see. I got promoted to sergeant, and I was I was on the street, a uniform sergeant. Then I became a tack sergeant, and then I got to be a detective sergeant for a little while.
So what was your favorite gig?
Tack sergeant.
Yeah, that was always fun. I wasn't a sergeant at Tech, but it was certainly a lot of fun. It was like Chicago. It was basically curb to curb. You went out to some area and you just stop and frisk, stop and frisk.
Yeah, they gave us missions. Like if we tack unit, there were like 6 or 7 people on the day shift, 6 or 7 people on the afternoon shift. So
How
usually
big
on
is the town?
how many people or how big?
How big? Both
Well, let's see.
offhand.
There was about 60,000 residents back then. It's only 3.5 square miles, so they're all crammed in there. And back then, the police department was close to 130 people.
Well, that's a good size.
Yeah,
That's a good size. So the job that you dislike the most.
commander. I did not like it at all. I was stuck inside the station most of the time, and every time something happened when I was not on duty, I would get called. They would call me at home, come in because this guy did this, come in because that guy. So that's why I retired eventually.
Because you didn't want to put up with that stuff.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
Boy, that's a shame.
Yeah. The
That's a shame.
best job on the police department was being a sergeant out on the street.
I worked the street. I think there were 2 years out of almost 30 that I didn't work the street.
Mm,
And I was begging to get back on the street after a year in each of those positions. There are two different positions, 15, 20 years apart. I said,
mhm.
get me out of here. And it was of course, it was a big department, but there was a different culture in the office. I used to call it, I still do, empty holster gigs.
Right.
The people who worked inside, I don't think they wanted to be outside. Although on Chicago, if you're working inside, you were usually schmoozing the bosses, and
Right.
you had time to study for the exam.
Mhm.
And you probably knew more about what was going to be on the exam than the guys that were actually doing police work out on the
Right.
street. It's
Right.
totally unfair, totally unfair. You were telling me a story about Jackie and Joel. That happened. Do you remember when that happened? About what year?
It
We
was
just made
probably
these names up to cover
okay.
these people because they certainly deserve this respect of their confidentiality and protect us from liability.
So I was working tack with my partner on the east end of town, and a call went out about a guy running around in the street by Austin and Madison shouting for help. So we happened to be right there and we saw the guy, so we pulled over and what's going on? Well, I just got married recently and she's been beating me and she's been taking my money and I'm not even sure if she's a woman. So we asked him his name. He said his name is Joel. And so who is what's your wife's name? Jackie? So I said, where's Jackie? "Well, she's in the house." I said, "Well, okay, well, let's go talk to
So,
Jackie."
so Joel, he was physical description. What did Joel, the victim, look like?
He was like an Italian American guy, about 5'7", probably in his 60s. And so he says, and Jackie, my family didn't agree. They didn't like this arrangement because she's black and
Oh, my.
and none of my family came to the reception. All of her people came to the reception. It cost me a bunch of money.
Hello, Joel. I'm Jackie. How are you this evening?
So go on with the story. Forgive me.
So we go into the house, in the apartment, and Jackie is laying up in the bed, filing her fingernails. And I could tell just by looking at her, he this was not a woman. So it wasn't
Well, you didn't examine the person, but you could tell it wasn't a female.
the Adam's apple, the hands. You don't need to be a biologist.
How big would you say? Did Jackie get out of bed?
Not that, no, but I would say about 5'8", probably outweighed Joel by 30 pounds. So,
Go on.
so Joel packed up his stuff and left, and we waited till he got out of the place, and we get him outside, and we said, "Joel, didn't you consummate the marriage?" He said, "Well, it was dark. She was on her stomach, and she told me I was in the right place." A couple of weeks later,
My gosh. My gosh.
I'm driving down Austin Boulevard, and who do I see carrying groceries into the apartment? Joel. So,
He was in love.
yep.
He was in love.
A couple of weeks after that, one of the people I worked with arrested Jackie for driving around exposing her breasts to little boys. When I came in the station, I saw her. I said,
So hold on. Hold on. Jackie's breasts, I guess they were like implants or something, do you
"Probably,
think?
yeah, right, yeah,
So Jackie got arrested for going topless and showing it to young boys.
right." But anyway, I got into the station and I looked and I said, "We had an incident with you with Joel." She said, "Yeah." I said, "Are you still with Joel?" "I'm never going to leave Joel."
Wow. Unbelievable.
Mhm.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, everybody has a right to have their best life,
Right,
whatever they want to do. I just don't impose it upon my kids or whatever.
right,
So, and you had another story. Yeah, there was a prisoner you had.
right.
Now, is this somebody you arrested or just a prisoner
No,
in
no,
the
no.
station?
I was the watch commander that day.
I,
So so when
you were the boss.
you get done with roll call, one of the duties of the watch commander is to walk around the station, make sure that the doors are locked that are supposed to be locked, the doors are open that are supposed to be open, that there's nothing amiss, and you got to go back and inspect the cells, make sure nobody's hung themselves back there. So I go back to the cells, and I'm in the male section, and there's 4 cells there, and I see one of the people there, and I always ask them at the beginning of the shift, "Is there anything you need? Do you need a sandwich? You need a cup of coffee? You want to make a phone call?" Because that way they wouldn't bother you the whole shift if you took care of them. So I see this one guy back there, and I said, "Do you want to make a phone call?" He goes, "Yeah, I want to make a phone call." Okay. So I said, "When I got done making my rounds, I'll come back and I'll let you out and we can make a phone call." So I get done with the station inspection. I go back there and I open up the cell and I take him into the booking room. And I said, "There's the phone on the wall right there. Dial 9 and then dial your number." So he dials and he said, "Yeah, baby, it's me. Oak Park police have me locked up on some bullshit charge. Call the FBI." "Call the FBI." I said, "Call the FBI." "What do you mean spell it?" You can't make this
Well,
stuff up.
the Federal Bureau of Investigation, you know,
Mhm.
and as crazy as that may sound, you know, he may have been just performing for you. I don't know, or he may have been seriously. I mean, I, I have arrested people, and you may have encountered this too, that when you got to court, they just let everything go. Didn't tell you why, didn't
Mhm.
tell you any. I arrested people who were drug dealers. And they were kind of offering, hey, man, you know, I can take care of you. You don't have to lock me up. Their job was to go out
Mhm.
and try to get police involved. They were setting up a sting operation, and
Mhm.
happened to me several times.
Informant one time, this
Oh,
woman's
you did?
yeah, this woman says her boyfriend is up in the apartment. He's got a shotgun underneath the mattress and she wants him out of there. So it was her apartment. So she let us in and we heard some movement around. We got in there and we're talking to him. And she says it's under a mattress. So we lifted up the mattress. There was a sawed off shotgun there.
Well, good one.
Yeah, so we locked him up, and
Federal crime.
yes, so we locked him up, and later that day, I got a call from an FBI agent, said, "He's not a bad guy, he's an informant for us." I said, "Well, he is a bad guy because he had a sawed-off shotgun underneath the mattress." So
You got some pretty good things going there. It's pretty entertaining. It's it's uh it's kind of like you got to be in a long-term conversation with somebody and I think start to roll.
right, I do have, yeah, I remember this one story, one case. We got a call of and I was working in uniform at the time, and I was a patrol officer, and it was on the, north end of town, the nice end of town, and they said there was a guy in the street rolling around acting crazy. So we get there, and there's this huge guy laying down on the street, arms above his head, rolling from side to side, just screaming nonsense. And we're trying to stop him from rolling around. And up on the second floor balcony of the building next door, there was a guy sitting there reading a book. And he's looking down at us. And he came down. He said, "I know how to handle this. Got experience. I can take care of this." I said, "Okay, go ahead." He goes, "Evil spirits, come out in the name of Jesus." I said, "Thanks for your help, buddy. Take go on."
Of course, I was expecting you to finish that by saying that the guy just calmed down immediately.
No, we
It didn't work.
still have to wrestle
Yeah.
around with him.
So I think what is your recreational activity now that you're no longer the police?
Well, I play the ukulele. I collect ukuleles. I restore vintage ukuleles. I do a lot of bike riding, calisthenics, and I volunteer with an organization called COPLINE. And COPLINE is a 24/7, 365 crisis hotline for police, retired police, and their loved ones. It's totally anonymous, totally confidential. We're in the United States and Canada, and we just went live in Australia about 3 weeks ago.
So do you talk to Australian cops or those are Australians talking to Australian cops?
When the number you call is 1-800 COPLINE. So no matter where you are in the world, if you're in Canada, the United States, or Australia, that's the number you're going to call. So a couple of weeks ago, I was on call with an Australian guy, and I think it was his first or second shift. And he got a call from one of our regular callers, this former cop, who he's a nice guy, but he's just always drunk when he calls. And he calls and he gets this guy from Australia, and he was really fired up about that. He said, "This is great." And he had this guy tell him all about Australia. And so it's
Ah,
I'm and I haven't taken any calls from Australia yet, but I have taken calls from Canada and, you know, all over the country.
uh, are some of these cops in crisis situations?
Oh yeah, I've handled a few suicidal people that are ready to check out. Yeah, those are tough
Oh,
calls. 95% of our
eh,
calls are just bad day, bad day at home, bad day at work. But the other 5%, yeah, it's the pucker factor kicks in.
yeah, yeah, wow. So these are mostly working policemen that are calling, not retired policemen.
I would say close to 25% of the calls we get are from retired police officers.
Pretty good stuff. That's
Mm.
pretty good stuff. You're talking to me that the director of the programs, she has never been the police, but
No.
she's really good.
Yes, she's a therapist. She's a therapist for the police for about 30 years. And she knows cops better than most cops know cops. So,
So, well, you already said the number.
right.
So do you get people who call and say they are cops and just try to stroke you?
I've had that happen. Other times you pick up the phone and you say, "Cop line, this is Mike. What's going on?" Hey, fuck you, pig. Blick, they'll hang up.
Well, it's a little different today than when we were kids, when you can
Right.
make a prank call
Mhm.
because you know exactly where it's coming from.
We don't get the phone number. We just get the area.
Ah,
We just get an area code.
so the cop remains anonymous.
Yes. And we're anonymous.
Well,
So all they get from us is a first name, and all we get from them is a first name. If they want to give us, like sometimes I'll ask them, do you mind if I have your first name? Because it makes for a better connection. Well, I'd rather not. I said, well, just make up a name. If you call yourself Shirley, if whatever you want to
Yeah,
call yourself,
like Joel and Jackie. Yeah, yeah,
right.
like Joel and
It just
Jackie.
makes for a better connection when you're talking to somebody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a great thing. So how often do you do this?
you're required to be on an 8-hour shift once a month, but I usually do 1 or 2 8-hour shifts per week. I mean, I
Good man.
hate to say I enjoy it because it's not something,
Well, I would enjoy it, I think. It's kind of like why I'm doing this.
but you can't really enjoy people's problems. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's but I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. How's that?
As I told you before, I teach yoga on the beach. I'm going to be 80 years old soon. I'm a retired cop from Chicago, but it's an incredible thing to be retired, but
Mhm.
still feel relevant. Like you're
Right,
really helping people. Yeah, I'm helping people in a different way,
right.
but you're really doing something for people, and that's rewarding. It's
It's
extremely rewarding.
it can be very tough, but the rewards far outweigh the difficulties. When you get off the
Yes,
phone,
yes,
when
they
somebody
do.
says, "Thank you very much, you've saved my life," that's all I need.
That's great.
Mhm.
Wow. And that happens.
Yes, a lot of times, like I've had a couple of people I didn't know they were suicidal, and in fact, the first one I got, like this was years ago. I was talking to this guy. This was during the George Floyd era, and he worked a statewide unit. So I can't tell you what state it was, but they would go to all the demonstrations, riots, protests. And he said, I used to think that I was a really good cop. People liked me. He said, but now they all hate me. They throw shit at me. He said, I had somebody throw a fire extinguisher at me the other day. He said, I had somebody come up, stick a squirt gun underneath my shield and squirt me, and it was full of piss. He said, I said, have you ever been suicidal? He said, no, no, not really. I used to be, but not anymore. Well, we got done. He got home, and that was it. About 3 or 4 hours later, I get an email from our director, and she's very direct. The title of her email was "Holy shit." So she said, "Check out this email I got just now." And it was an email, and this guy says, "Thank you for
Go
thank
ahead,
you for
man. Take
thank
your
you
time.
thank you for saving my life today." He said, "I was in a
Wow.
really bad spot when I called, and Mike saved my life by talking to me." And that's all I need. That's the only we don't get paid. It's the only reward I need.
Do they need people? Do they need more volunteers?
We're always looking for volunteers because there's it's not a huge turnover, but some people. Did you
They
hear
get
about?
burn out.
Yeah, did you hear about who was it? The guy that got shot? He was a retired Chicago cop, and he went down to Kentucky as a school resource officer.
Yeah, I heard this recently. I can't remember the entire story.
I tell you his name, or you don't want the name on here.
No, you can tell me his name.
Rick Coyle, and Rick was a 30-year Chicago cop. And when he retired, he came to volunteer with COPLINE. So we had a pretty good relationship because
Oh, was Rick in his 70s now, or
no,
do you
no,
think
no,
he'd be
he
in his
young guy. He was probably
okay?
early 50s.
Because I knew a couple of Coyle
Yeah.
on the job, but go on.
So it turns out he and I graduated from the same high school, Brother Rice on the Southwest side, but I graduated a few minutes before he did. So, um, so he volunteered with Copline for a few months, but then he got this job as a school resource officer in Kentucky. And one of the requirements when you volunteer for Copline, you can't be sworn anymore because then you're a
Then you
mandated
have to
reporter.
report something.
Yes,
Yeah, you have to report something
right.
if something
So
happens.
right.
Yeah,
So
I
he
can
got this
see
job
that.
as a school resource officer in Kentucky, and that was a couple of years ago. And then he got shot. He figured he got a nice job in Kentucky as a school resource officer. He's going to be safe. He did 30 years on Chicago, and he was a SWAT team leader for 20 something years. And then he goes down there and he's helping to serve papers. And he gets shot in the vest and shot in the head. And he died the other day. He hung on for about 2 weeks and he died.
What a shame. Yeah, you never know.
Nope.
I mean, we're dealing with all kinds of people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that is your continuing contribution
Yeah.
to
Right.
be for having been the police.
Yeah. Because
You must have been a good boss. You must have been a good boss. If you're doing this, you like the police, and you liked your guys, and you took care of them and your gals.
Well, I always said that I told my people that work for me, I like you better than I like them, the administration.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I have more
yeah. That's a
respect
good
for
thing.
I have more respect for the people out there doing the work than I do for somebody sitting behind a desk pushing papers. So
Absolutely. It's like that's the infantry, man.
They're doing the
That's
hard
it.
work. They're doing the heavy
That's
lifting.
it. The rest of the people are living
Mm.
on the dole, literally off the work that those guys are
Right.
doing on the street.
Exactly.
I hope I don't piss anybody off out there, but my father was a cop. He worked the street for 30 years, and he called them house cats. The house cats.
I don't know if you can see this poster right there.
Yeah, I see that. It's a great picture.
That's me. That's how much I was liked by the people on my shift.
They gave you that.
When I retired, there was a guy that worked in a drugstore on Austin and Lake, and he was an artist, and they had him draw that for me, and they gave it to me the day I retired.
So what is your avocation? You're athletic, you're doing sports, you pickleball, what's going on?
No, I used to do a lot more physical activity than I do now, but I had a major back surgery about 6 years ago, spinal fusion, L4, L5, S1. So I can't do what I used to do. So I do a calisthenics, and my wife and I ride our bikes maybe about 80 miles a week um, in the forest
Yeah.
preserves. I used to be a personal trainer also. When I retired from the
Oh,
police,
here you go. Yeah, that's right. So what kind of training did you do?
well, my philosophy was you do not need a gym. The world is your
No.
gym, your body is your barbell. So you can get a full workout in a telephone booth if you want. And I would go to people's houses and just whatever they had handy, would use it. Push-ups, squats. You don't need all fancy equipment.
No, you don't. You don't. Although I am kind of addicted to different kinds of exercise apparatus. I got all different kinds of bands. That's another subject for another time, but they work for me. And
Did you ever hear of the
hopefully I'll be around.
exercise company called Spry?
Right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I was a model for them for a while. I was on every one of their medicine ball
One of these
boxes,
models like that?
just doing exercises. Like I was on every one of their medicine ball boxes for a couple of years.
No kidding.
I was in their catalog for a few years. Yeah. I've done a little bit of modeling,
Oh,
print
that's
model,
great.
print modeling. I did, let's see, I did that. I did, what else? The last one I did was Miracle Ear. You've heard of Miracle Ear, right? The hearing aids?
Not offhand, but I've got hearing aids, not
Yeah.
these, but I've got hearing aids here somewhere.
Mhm.
I got them at Costco.
Miracle Ear. I did some print ads for Miracle Ear. So I started out doing the physical fitness stuff. Then I went to Miracle Ear. I think the next thing is going to be adult diapers. So
Well, I hope not. That's great to hear. And listen, that was some good stuff. I really enjoyed it. It's very entertaining, and I don't know where this is all going to go. Maybe someday we'll, like we were talking earlier, we have a panel of people. If you want to join a panel or something,
sure.
and we can get together. So you wouldn't mind if I promoted this police group? What do you call it?
COPLINE.
COPLINE.
Yeah. It would be great if you
Yeah.
promote it. We're looking for all the help we can get.
Yeah, and also cops who might need it will hear it too.
Right. That's the
So
thing.
I'll get all that information from you and put it in the
Okay.
in the description of the video. Like it's probably get out next month or late this month, but stand by.
Old school.